Hey there, I'm Avip. Welcome to the audiobook My Fanfic. Rusted Professor. I don't own RWBY or any of its characters. This is a non-profit fan project made just for fun and shared for free. All rights belong to their original creators. Before we start, I want to let you know that since I'm not fluent in speaking English yet, the narration is AI generated. I hope you still enjoy the story and the world I've created. Thanks for listening.
Chapter 1. Substitute. Point of view. Pira Nikos. Professor Goodwitch can't teach today, so when we arrive at the classroom, we are greeted by a substitute teacher who, in Yang's words, is a total blonde dilf. Word choices aside, I agree that he is quite handsome, tall, and muscular, but I have never been attracted to older men. And his beard, combined with the fact that he wears old, rusty armor, makes him look like a beggar. I think to myself, staring at the teacher. When the teacher asked for volunteers to fight him, many girls and even some boys wanted a chance, but it was Yang and Weiss who stood out by standing up and asking loudly. Both are very interested in engaging with the teacher in the ring. "Go Yang!" Nora shouts from my side. "Break his legs." Nora. She is less than 10 meters in front of us. Her partner complains. "You don't need to scream." "Sorry, Rennie," Nora says, making a dog face at her partner. Nora's reaction might be exaggerated, but it is normal to root for a friend, especially one who is losing so badly. "Stay still." Yang grumbles at her opponent, dodging another of his blows. "NOP," says the armored man in a playful tone. "Harg," Yang yells, trying to hit the teacher with all her strength, only to be parried by her opponent's shield and then pushed out of the ring from behind.
POF.
"Ring out." Yang Xiaolong. The system announces in a robotic voice before Yang's defeat. "Rurg," growls the frustrated girl on the floor. "You are a short-tempered, arrogant girl, and you also are extremely dependent on your semblance to defeat enemies who overpower you," says Professor Luna, approaching Yang lying on the floor. Still with her eyes red, Yang stares at the armored teacher as if she wants to bite his head off. But the professor continues, sheathing his sword and taking off his helmet. "You are also a strong, determined, and very talented young woman." Yang's eyes widen and her body freezes at the teacher's sincere praise. Really?" Yang stutters. With a warm smile on his face, the teacher extends his hand to help the student to her feet. Hesitantly, as if she is a shy maiden, Yang accepts the hand and the teacher quickly lifts her off the ground. With training, experience, and a little direction in your rage, you can become the greatest huntress in the kingdom of Vale of your generation, or even all of Remnant. He finishes speaking, giving a hearty and contagious laugh. Yang's face lights up in a red hue, which doesn't go unnoticed by Nora. Look at the teacher's pet." Nora mocks loudly. In response, the entire class laughs at Yang, who stomps out of the ring as she mumbles angrily. Jokes aside, I want you all to understand, anger is a powerful emotion, says the teacher in a more serious tone, his voice booming. When used correctly, it can help you defeat powerful enemies. The statement catches several students off guard as they begin to whisper among themselves in confusion. I understand their astonishment. Usually, teachers and instructors advise not to give in to your emotions during battle. They say that we should have a cold and calculating mind when dealing with the enemy. However, anger is just something that fuels your spirit in battle. Don't let it control you, the teacher says, frowning with a melancholy look. It can lead to making irreparable mistakes. A sepulchral silence falls in the room. No student dares to even blink at the declaration, all waiting for context that never came. Professor Luna laughs, awkwardly. "Sorry about that awkward silence. To make it up to you, I'll send you off 5 minutes early for lunch." In response, the room erupts in cheers and applause, with students standing up and quickly heading out the door. When the room finally calms down, I get up only to notice that Nora has run off with the rest of the students and Run is dragged by her. "This teacher is a bit weird," whispers a male voice next to me. Looking to the left, I see my partner, staring thoughtfully at Professor Luna. "Why do you say that, John?" I ask curiously. Don't get me wrong, he seems like a good teacher, but I feel like I've seen him before. Like before class or the school year? More like he's a distant relative I haven't seen in a while. John says, getting up and walking towards the teacher. I follow John as he approaches Professor Luna, who is removing his rusted armor, revealing a black tank top that clings to his muscular body. The professor's physique is impressive, a testament to years of training and discipline. It is as if he is one of those ancient heroes carved from marble. John clears his throat, catching the teacher's attention. "Excuse me, Professor Luna." He begins, his voice firm but curious. "I couldn't help but notice, are you by any chance a member of the ARC family?" The professor stops mid-motion, his hands still on the straps of his armor. His eyes flick to John, then to me, before settling back on John. There is a moment of silence, a hesitation that seems to go on a little too long. "ARC, you said?" Professor Luna finally responds, his voice careful, measured. He goes back to removing his armor, but his movements are slower, more deliberate. "Why do you ask?" John shrugs, a casual gesture that belies the intensity of his gaze. "You remind me of someone, an uncle of mine maybe." The professor laughs, but it sounds forced, without the genuine warmth it had been before. "Well, as I say earlier in my introduction, I'm Professor John Luna, and I don't remember being related to any ARC." He avoids John's gaze, focusing on carefully stacking his armor pieces. His evasiveness is palpable, a stark contrast to the open and engaging demeanor he demonstrates during class. John nods, apparently satisfied with the answer, oblivious to the educator's tension. "Just thought I'd ask," he says, smiling, feeling satisfied. "Thanks for the early dismissal, by the way. It's always good to have a little extra time." The professor nods, with a tight smile on his face. "No problem," says the teacher, turning his back. "Enjoy your lunch, John and PYR." As we turn to leave, I can't shake the feeling that there is more than meets the eye. Professor Luna's reaction to John's question is suspicious. I look at the teacher one last time before leaving the classroom. He is there, watching us leave, his expression unreadable. There is a story there, hidden beneath the surface, and I can't help but feel a spark of curiosity, a desire to discover the truth. But for now, it has to wait. Lunch is calling, and with it, the promise of normality and dash. "Wait!" I exclaim in the middle of the hallway. "What did he call me?" "Point of view, Professor Luna." I lean against the cold steel wall of the elevator. My breath comes in ragged gasps. The fight with Yang was refreshing and even fun, but it is nothing compared to the confusion in my mind. Seeing Pira again, it was hard and also hurts like a punch in the gut. I thought I was prepared, that I had strengthened myself for this moment, but I was wrong. The sight of her, standing there, strong and radiant as in my most vivid memories, awakens feelings I thought had long been buried. "My God, how I missed you, PYR." I murmur with tears streaming from my eyes. In my chest, I feel a pain that I have become accustomed to, like an old wound that hasn't healed properly. But seeing her again is like sticking a knife in, exposing the bloody flesh beneath. When I close my eyes, I can see her, clear as day. The way her hair catches the light, the fierce determination in her eyes. The elevator hums, a soft, steady sound that seems to echo the rhythm of my thoughts. Feeling tired, I raise my hand and rub my face to compose myself. Then I let out a deep sigh as I feel the weight of it leave me. "Mr. Luna," a calm voice says, catching my attention. "I'm glad you can join me." I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't even notice the door opening. "Yes, oh of course." I stutter, getting out of the elevator. "What would you like to talk to me about, Professor Ashbin?" Smiling, the director sits back in his chair, looking at me. After taking a sip from his cup, he answers me. "Please," Ashbin says in a friendly tone. "When we're alone, you can call me Ashbin or Ozma." I nod. "And if you want, I can call you John," adds the immortal wizard, smiling. Chapter 2, Special Training. Point of view, Professor Luna. I take a sip of coffee. The bitter liquid scalds my throat as I let out a sigh that seems to carry the weight of the day. The steam from the mug rises, distorting the view of the office ahead. Through the mug's fog, I look at Professor Ashbin, his eyes fixed on me with a mixture of curiosity and concern.
Jean.
He begins, his voice steady and calm. How was your first day as a substitute? I place the mug on the table between us. The ceramic clinks against the wood. It was interesting, I reply, leaning back in the chair. The leather creaks under my weight, a sound that seems to echo the fatigue in my bones. Ashbin raises an eyebrow, waiting for me to elaborate. I can see the questions forming in his mind. The wheels are turning as he tries to decipher my cryptic answer. The students are surprised by Goodwich's absence. I continue to choose my words carefully, but they seem to have accepted me as a replacement. A slight smile appears at the corners of Ashbin's mouth. I'm glad the students are comfortable with your presence, the teacher says, giving a serene smile. But I admit I'm more interested in how you're feeling now that you saw your old friends. Ashbin's words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. Their weight falls on my shoulders, a familiar burden I have carried for years. I take a deep breath. The smell of old books and polished wood fills my nostrils and meet his gaze. It is complicated. I begin, my voice steady despite the inner turmoil. Seeing them again, after everything that happened, I suddenly stop talking. I can't find the words to describe my feelings. The professor leans forward, his eyes never leaving mine. It is clear that it will not be a simple matter. The teacher says, taking a sip from his mug. But talking about the subject can help ease your pain. I sigh tiredly, but I decide to open up. It's good and bad at the same time. I finally say, on the one hand, it's a chance to see my old friends, to guide them better than I could before. But on the other, it's a constant reminder of my mistakes and what is lost. Ashbin nods, his expression thoughtful. Loss is part of life, John. It shapes us, makes us stronger. But it also leaves scars. I look at my hands, the knuckles scarred and calloused from years of battle. You are right, I murmur. But it's not just the loss. It's the responsibility. The weight of knowing their future is in my hands now. Ashbin leans back in his chair, fingers intertwined in front of him. You already made a difference, Dash.
Ding.
The professor is cut off by the private elevator door that opens with a soft touch, revealing a figure that runs out with a burst of energy. I stand up, but before I can register who it is, arms wrap me in a tight hug.
Jean.
Shouts an excited female voice. I look down and see a head full of vibrant brunette hair pressed against my chest. Amber Sunstone, the fall maiden, clings to me. I hesitate for a moment, then hug her back, feeling a mixture of surprise and joy. Amber, I say, relieved that she is in a good mood. It's good to see you. When I rescued her from Cinder's attack, she was depressed. Being stuck in Beacon at the time didn't help her morale at all, but she is better off sad and alive than free and dead. I heard you were back, but I couldn't believe it until I saw you with my own eyes. Her gaze sweeps over me, taking in every detail. Weren't you on a mission with Crow and Glinda? I swallow hard. The memory of our operation to capture the traitor, Leonardo Lionheart, surfaces in my mind. The Faunus had already become a spy for Salem, but with the help of Crow and Professor Goodwich, we managed to capture him without creating any commotion. Now Lionheart is retired, and Professor Goodwich is acting as headmistress of Haven Academy to keep it running and keep an eye on Cinder.
Jean.
Amber's voice breaks through the haze of memories, her eyes searching mine with concern. Are you well? I force a smile, pushing the memories back into the back of my mind. Yes, just remembering some old battles. Ashbin coughs into his hand, catching our attention. Amber, have you finished your training for today? Amber crosses her arms, her expression turning from joy to irritation. No, not yet. You know that mastering your powers is essential to your survival. I know that, she replies tiredly. But if I have any problem, John is here to save me. He is not at your disposal, Miss Sunstone, Ashbin says in a serious tone. He is currently working as John Luna for Beacon Academy. John Luna? I changed my name because of the other me. I respond by intruding on their conversation. I know John isn't that different from John, but if someone in the know calls me by my old name by accident, they can use it as an excuse that they just pronounce it wrong without raising suspicion. That's stupidly genius. Amber comments a little confused. I can't help but end up laughing at her honest comment. Ashbin watches us, a faint smile playing on his lips, but his eyes hold a depth of concern that I know all too well. Well, Amber, I say, gently disentangling myself from his embrace. I'm happy to see you, but I have some preparations to make. I have a special training session today. Amber's smile fades a little, but she nods, understanding in her eyes. Of course, Professor Luna. She corrects herself, laughing. And who is the victim of this special training? Smiling, I reply to her. Myself. Point of view. Yang Xiaolong. I disinterestedly poke at the food that I have on my plate. The clatter of cutlery and the hum of conversation around me seem distant, muffled by the thick silence that has settled in my head. Ruby's voice cuts through the fog, soft and cautious. Yang, you have been picking at your food for the last 10 minutes. Are you okay? I look up, forcing a smile that feels fragile onto my lips. I'm just not that hungry, I guess. I lie, hoping she'll give up. But Ruby isn't one to back down easily, a trait I usually admire, but now it is just inconvenient. She raises an eyebrow, studying me with an intensity that makes me squirm. Not hungry, you? She repeats her disbelief at my statement. Since when do you refuse a meal? Especially a steak that size. I shrug, trying to pretend it is nothing. Everyone has bad days, I guess? I stab the piece of meat with more force than necessary, avoiding her gaze. Ruby looks at me with one eyebrow still raised, without buying my excuse. Yang, we both know that's not true. You're not just not hungry. Something is bothering you. I sigh, placing my fork down with a clatter. It's nothing really. Just the fight with the teacher today. I admit sheepishly, my voice barely above a whisper. Oh. Blake nods on the other side, understanding dawning in her eyes. Are you upset because he wins? No, that's not it. I shake my head, frustrated. Yes, it hurts a little that I lose, but it's more than that. He was holding back and beat me like I was a little kid on the first day of prep school. Ruby and Blake look at each other, considering my words. My sister already seems to have understood what is bothering me. After all, Ruby knows me very well. Blake is still confused. And that bothers you that much? Blake asks. Of course it bothers me. I exclaim, frustrated. No one has ever fought me without taking me seriously. Father and Uncle Crow never take you seriously in a fight. Ruby says with a cheek smile. Arrrrrrr. I grumble, frustrated at the truthful comment. I push my plate away, the food barely touched. Ruby and Blake exchange worried looks again, but it is Weiss who speaks, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. You know, Yang, she says, wiping her mouth with a napkin. I think you're looking at this the wrong way. I raise an eyebrow, turning to face her. Weiss sits with her back straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap. His eyes meet mine with a steady gaze, without a hint of her usual disdain in sight. What do you mean by that? I ask, my voice harsher than I intend. Weiss doesn't waver. Instead, she leans forward, her expression serious. Professor Luna is clearly a skilled fighter. He not only understands the theory behind our training, but also has the practical skills to back it up. That's a rare combination. I scoff, crossing my arms. So what? Should I just be happy when he defeats me? Weiss shakes her head, her voice softening. No, that's not what I'm saying. But think about it, Yang. We are here to learn, to improve. Having a teacher who can challenge us, who can show us where we need to grow, that's invaluable. I look in surprise towards Weiss, the always critical, the always demanding princess of perfection is satisfied. Are you serious? I say, more of a statement than a question. Weiss nods. Absolutely. I have had tutors and instructors my entire life, and very few of them are able to balance theory and practice the way Professor Luna does. It's refreshing to see a professional of his caliber at Beacon, and not another port. I guess I haven't thought of it that way. I admit, my voice softer now. Weiss smiles, nodding in approval. It's a chance for us to grow young, to strengthen ourselves. And isn't that what we're all here for? And it also helps that he's a hunk of a DILF, perfect for a girl like Weiss is with tons of daddy issues. Blake says, smiling mischievously. What? Shouts the horrified heiress. I can't help but end up laughing at Blake's comment. Point of view, John Arc. I stand up quickly, my heart beating like a drum. The scroll screen casts a bright glow in the dark dormitory. I pick up the device, squinting at the message from the unknown sender. I know your secret, and if you want to stay in Beacon, meet me alone in the combat room. A shiver runs down my spine. My thumb hovers over the reply button, but another message appears. Now. I look at my roommates, their sleeping faces, and the sound of Nora's snoring calms me down a little. Getting out of bed, I grab my jacket and tiptoe to the door. I walk through the dimly lit hallways of Beacon Academy, my footsteps echoing on the cold stone floor. The silence is deafening, each step a reminder of the weight I carry. The message burns in my mind, a constant reminder that my secret is out. I'm a fraud and someone knows it. I whisper, shaking. The door to the combat room looms ahead, a silent sentinel waiting to pass judgment. I stop. My hand hovers over the doorknob. The metal is cool to the touch, a stark contrast to the heat of my nerves. I take a deep breath, preparing myself for what lies beyond. When I open the door, the room is bathed in a soft glow from the overhead lights. In the middle of the room is a figure in black armor that is unknown to me. Good. The figure says, his voice low and serious. You show up. I nod, my throat dry.
Who are you?
What do you want from me? The figure approaches, walking slowly. Despite being dressed in heavy black armor, his steps are silent. I know your secret, John Arc. He sounds familiar. And you're going to report me? I ask, fearing the worst. No, he takes his hand to the helmet that hides his face. I will help you, says the now helmetless figure. P. Professor Luna? I stutter. I like the new armor, I say, trying to lighten the mood. I stand there, frozen, as Professor Luna's stern gaze passes through me. You cheated your way into Beacon, John. He says, his voice is cold as it is melancholy. You took an opportunity that could have gone to someone who really deserves it. Someone who worked hard, who trained, who was ready. I feel a lump form in my throat, a mix of shame and regret choking me. I know that he is right, of course, but hearing it from someone else puts more weight on my conscience. I look down at my feet, unable to meet his eyes. Do you think you can just walk in here with forged documents and become a huntsman? He continues, his voice rising. Beacon is no joke, John. It is a place to forge huntsmen and huntresses, not for cowards and liars. Every word hurts, a harsh reminder of my mistake. I came to Beacon with the best intentions, wanting to make a difference, to be a hero. But now, under his scrutiny, I feel anything but. I am really sorry. I whisper, my voice barely audible. I just wanted to help, to honor my family's legacy. Professor Luna sighs, his expression softening a little. I know you do, John. But good intentions don't make up for bad actions. I feel a tear slide down my cheek, a hot trail of shame. I was so naive, so foolish. I thought I could just blend in, learn, become a real huntsman. But, he says, his voice calmer now, it is too late to change what has been done. You passed the initiation, and expelling you now would only cause more harm than good. I look at him, a glimmer of hope shining in my chest. What do you mean? Your team will be without a leader, and we would have to find another student to complete JNPR. He says, his eyes steady and determined. And that's why I'm going to train you, so that you deserve the opportunity you stole. I will make you someone worthy of Beacon. I look at him, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through my body. That's what I want, isn't it? Become a real huntsman. Make a difference. But now, under his watchful eye, I know it won't be easy. I know I will work harder than ever. I took the liberty of taking your sword from your locker before coming here, says the teacher, tossing crochet moors to me. Attack me with everything you have, not with intention of scoring points or draining my aura. Come with the intention of killing me. I swallow hard, facing the teacher with my legs shaking a little. BB, but professor, that wouldn't be. I try to speak, but I am cut off. Listen here, John, he says, pointing his black steel sword towards me. I don't have time to justify every step of your training. Do as I say or go back home like the liar that everyone will know you are. I let out a horrified sigh. The thought of being humiliated and losing my friends is worse than any kind of training this teacher can put me through. Okay, Professor Luna, I say, my voice shaking a little. I will do whatever it takes to prove that I belong here. The teacher nods. Strangely, he seems relieved with my choice with a proud smile on his lips. Excellent. So, let's get started, he says, taking a defensive stance with his sword. Attack me with all your strength. Point of view, Professor Luna. As he is a younger version of me, I already know he has no training, but I still need to get an idea of where he is compared to the other students. With that in mind, I do the first day of training with him focused on a fight against me, him attacking me seriously while I stay on the defensive and using only counterattacks, so I can evaluate his performance. You can rest now, John. I speak only for the boy to fall to the floor, panting. His limits are very low. His resistance is pathetic, his movements slow, his blows are strong but lack coordination and technique to connect them correctly. I sigh, disappointment settling in my chest once again. This will be a long and difficult road. The worst part is that even though I want to help him, in the end I'm a hypocrite. I think silently, evaluating the young man. Because he is me. I approach the young man, my expression serious, my voice firm. You're going to have to train 3 times harder than any other student at Beacon, John. His eyes widen, a mix of shock and determination flickering across his face.
What?
He questions with his mouth agape. Are you serious? I kneel down next to him. With my gaze steady, I begin to explain. Because you're starting from scratch. You have the heart, but you lack the technique, the stamina, and the experience. Your colleagues have been training for years. You need to bridge that gap, and it won't be easy. John props himself up on his elbows, his breath coming in ragged gasps. But how can I do that? I'm already suffering just trying to keep up with them. I nod, understanding his concern. I know it's scary. But remember, every great hero starts somewhere. You have potential, John. You just have to be willing to put in the effort. He looks at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. What if I don't make it? What if I fail? Failure is part of the journey, John. It's how you learn and grow. I say, trying to cheer the boy up. You only need to do one thing to achieve your goals. John's eyes widened, staring at me, waiting to hear the secret that it's going to make him better. Don't give up. I say seriously, looking at the young man. If you fail, try again. If you fall, get up. If the sword slips from your hand, pick it up and hold on tighter. The young man, still tired and breathing heavily, stands up without breaking eye contact as I keep speaking. If you never give up, you will always have a chance to improve. John's breathing slowly steadies as he stands before me, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and determination. The training hall is silent. The only sounds are the distant hum of the gym and the occasional echo of our movements. Thank you, Professor Luna, he says, his voice still a little breathless. For keeping my secret. I nod, a small smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. It's not just about keeping secrets, John. It's about giving you the chance to grow. He looks at his hands, flexing his fingers as if imagining the weight of a weapon. I know I have a long way to go, but I'm willing to put in the effort. I don't want to disappoint anyone. That's the spirit. I reply, approaching. Now go to sleep. As soon as you get to your dorm, I will have sent you a training schedule. There will be a lot of running and a lot of working out. John replies, groaning in fear. Point of view, Pira Nikos. I am lying down when I hear the sound of the door opening. I get up to see who it is. when I come across John limping in.
John?
I speak, keeping my voice low. When he turns to me, he tries to hide a pained grimace. His hair is wet with sweat, his uniform is dirty, his body is sweaty, and he is breathing heavily. Something is wrong. Hey, Pira. He replies, forcing a smile. What happened to you? I ask worriedly. Are you hurt? He sighs, running a hand through his hair. Just some late training with Professor Luna. I look at him with a raised eyebrow. Training? Or getting beaten up by him? He tries to laugh, but he feels a stab of pain in his side. A little of both, maybe. He sits on the bed, carefully touching his ribs. I get closer, becoming more and more worried about him. Let me see. He hesitates before lifting his shirt. An ugly bruise is forming along his ribs. I frown, kneeling down to examine him. This isn't just training, John. What really happens? He looks away, embarrassed. The teacher fought with me for an hour. We only took short breaks to catch our breath. At the time, I hadn't even noticed this injury, but now that my body is cooled down, everything started to hurt. I sigh, standing up. That's not right, John. A teacher can't treat a student like that, much less at such a weird time. He looks down, tugging at a loose thread on his bedspread. It's okay, Pira, I promise. I sit down next to him, nudging his shoulder with mine. I want to help you, John. I murmur melancholy. He smiles, this time genuinely, as he sighs tiredly. John swallows hard and looks with his blue eyes at me. Pira, I have something to tell you. Chapter 3, Breakfast. Point of view, Professor Ashbin.
John.
I begin speaking, my voice firm and low. I saw on the arena security feed your training with your younger self. Sighing tiredly, John stares back at me without wavering before responding. It was necessary, Ashbin. I know that John, he has dreams of being a great hero, but he is not training seriously. I take a sip from my ever-present mug of coffee, letting the silence stretch for a moment. Necessary, perhaps. But what you did wasn't measured at all. He leans forward, hands clasped tightly together. I know it wasn't, he replies, hesitating for a second, but clenches his fists and responds determinedly. But now that he had a reality check, I know he's on the right path. I sigh tiredly at Professor Luna's reasoning. Even though he is right, I cannot agree with the way young John was treated.
John.
I begin, my voice firm but compassionate. I understand your intention, but we cannot just beat our students with the excuse that it's training. The time traveler sits back in his chair before answering. I understand you, Ashbin. I know I exaggerate, but from now on that is not necessary. Do I have your word that this will not happen again? I ask in a severe tone. Ark's word, it will not happen again. John replies, giving me a sincere smile. I lean back in my chair. The tension in my shoulders eases a little. John's promise with the Ark family name carries a weight that I cannot ignore. The room seems to breathe a sigh of relief with me, the air lighter now that the heavier part of our conversation is over. So, Professor Luna. I start, taking another sip of my coffee. What do you have planned for your students? John's lips curve into a thin smile that is equal parts amusement and predation. It is a look I have never seen in him before, one that speaks of challenges and trials. Inter-teamwork training, he says, his voice a low rumble, like distant thunder. I raise an eyebrow, intrigued and a little confused. Very good, I say, placing my empty cup on the table. I look forward to seeing what you have in store for them. Point of view, Weiss. I need to calm down. I repeat in a whisper, trying to carry out the action. I know it's early, 2 hours before classes start, but I've already come here. There's no reason not to talk to him. I raise my hand, knuckles ready to rap against the wood, but I hesitate. Come on, Weiss, I whisper to myself, clenching my fists. You face Grims. You can talk to a friendly teacher. I straighten my shoulders, lift my chin, and knock firmly on the door. The sound echoes through the hallway, a declaration of my resolve. I wait anxiously. My breath catches in my throat as the seconds tick by. From inside, I hear metal hitting a wooden surface. Then, footsteps approach the door. My heart jumps into my throat when the doorknob turns and the door opens to reveal Professor Luna in casual clothes and a pink apron with a little white bunny printed on it. "Weiss?" questions the professor, surprised by my visit. "What do you need so early?" The pink apron, tied around his muscular chest and ripped belly, is a stark contrast to the serious demeanor I expected from him. I open my mouth to speak, but the words stick in my throat. "IIW want a T-talk, T to TH dashed." I stutter nervously. But luckily for me, Professor Luna silences me by raising a hand. "You can stop there, I know why you're nervous," says the teacher in a serious tone. Surprised by his insight, I just stare at him in silence, with a raised eyebrow. Of course the SDC heiress is furious with someone like me referring to her by her first name. I promise it will not happen again, Miss Schnee. "No," I exclaim, outraged. "No." The teacher asks, confused. "I respect you a lot, sir. There's no problem calling me by my first name." The relieved professor gives me a warm smile, capable of melting any skyscraper-sized glacier in Atlas territory. "To tell the truth, you can call me whatever you want." An uncomfortable silence ensues and my jaw drops as I realize the nonsense I just said. The professor in turn acts like a gentleman and completely ignores what I say. "Since you're here really so early, would you like to have breakfast with me?" I swallow my nerves, trying to salvage what little dignity I have left. "I would love it," I reply, forcing a smile. The teacher walks away, gesturing for me to enter. His quarters are surprisingly cozy, a stark contrast to the cold, impersonal offices/apartments of the other teachers. A small table by the window is set, a pot of coffee and a basket of freshly baked rolls. The aroma fills the room, warm and inviting. "Please sit down," he says, pulling out a chair for me. I hesitate for a moment, but then sit down, my back rigid, hands folded in my lap. He pours me a cup of coffee. The steam rises in a delicate dance. "I must admit, I do not expect to see you here," he says, placing a plate with a stack of pancakes in front of me. "But I'm happy to welcome any of my students in need." I try to dismiss the plate of pancakes politely, with an awkward smile on my face. "Oh no, I could not." "Nonsense." Professor Luna interrupts, pushing the plate closer to me. "You're going to need energy today. My class will not be easy." His tone is firm but gentle, leaving no room for argument. The aroma of the pancakes is tempting, a sweet, comforting smell that fills the room. I can almost taste the warmth and a hint of vanilla just from the fragrance of them. I sigh, giving in as I pick up the fork. The first bite is divine, the pancakes light and fluffy, with just the right amount of sweetness. I cannot help but close my eyes briefly, savoring the taste. "Good, aren't they?" Professor Luna asks, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. I nod, swallowing hard before speaking. "Yes, they are delicious." "Thanks." "You're welcome. Now tell me, what brings you here so early?" The teacher asks, focusing me once again on our conversation. I straighten my posture, setting down my fork and folding my hands in my lap again. "Professor Luna." I begin, my voice firm and formal. "I want to speak to you, sir, about a conversation I had with Professor Port yesterday." Professor Luna raises an eyebrow, his expression curious. "Oh, and what is this conversation about?" I open up to him. I talk about how arrogant I was declaring that I am the best and most perfect on the RWBY team. I talk about how selfish I was demanding to be made the team leader, and also how the teacher made me recognize my arrogance. I'm grateful for the reality check Professor Port gives me, but still, I hesitate to continue, feeling vulnerable. "It still hurts to have your flaws exposed and rubbed in your face?" The teacher asks in a serious tone. I widen my eyes, surprised by Professor Luna's accuracy about what I am feeling. I open my mouth to answer him, but I cannot utter a response to him. The teacher gives a soft smile, his eyes reflecting deep understanding. "What you are feeling is normal," the teacher says in a fatherly tone full of affection. "And to tell you the truth, I'm mentoring a first-year student with a similar problem." "Mentoring?" I question with an arched eyebrow. curious about the teacher's statement. And what does that entail? I basically give him private lessons. The professor replies, taking a sip of coffee. Even though I am curious to know what I need to do to have private classes with Professor Luna, I decide to return to the subject at hand. I understand that my problem may be common, but how can I deal with it? How can I be better? With his eyes reflecting an almost infinite kindness, Professor Luna gives me a warm, fatherly smile that makes my cheeks turn slightly pink. The fact that you are feeling this way and trying to improve yourself already makes you a better person, Weiss, says the professor, drinking another cup of coffee. I'm proud of the kind of woman you are becoming. I look at him, touched by his words. It is a feeling I do not expect, but it resonates deeply with me. But, he continues, his voice firm and comforting. Exercising humility and deflating your ego is a healthy way to avoid future pain. His words hit home deep in my ego. I have always been proud of my abilities, my status, and my lineage. The idea of humility is strange, but not uncomfortable. I understand. I speak quietly, my voice softer than I intend. It's just, I've always been told that as a Schnee I must be the best, that everyone needs to know that I'm at the top. Scratching the back of his head with one hand, the teacher reflects on what I have said and then nods with his gentle expression. You can continue on your path to being the best, that is not the issue here. Just do not shout with a megaphone how much better and superior you are compared to everyone else. I feel my cheeks flush at the teacher's words, heat spreading across my face like wildfire. His analogy, although exaggerated, is more accurate than I would like to admit. My father gave me the basis in my way of thinking, and although it hurts to have this exposed so clearly once again, I'm happy to be able to move away from this behavior. I appreciate your honesty and kindness, Professor Luna. I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. When Professor Port spoke with me, he was right, but he was a little blunt with me. Giving a melodious laugh, the teacher alleviates the tension that arises between us. Professor Port isn't always direct, but when he needs, he's as subtle as a punch in the nose. A light chuckle escapes me as I stand up, thanking him once again for the conversation. Professor Luna also stands up and approaches. His presence fills the room. He places his large, calloused hand on my shoulder. Its weight is surprising, a reminder of the strength hidden beneath her calm demeanor. Whenever you need me, I'll be here to help you, Snow Angel. His hand remains on my shoulder as a reminder of your strength, his wisdom, and his kindness. It is a touch that calms me, that makes me feel seen. I look at him. My heart pounds in my chest. His eyes, as deep blue as the ocean, hold a depth of understanding and experience that is both comforting and intimidating. By the gods, he smells like pine and vanilla. I scream mentally, using all my willpower to maintain my poker face. I need to buy aromatic oils with this kind fragrance. Thank you very much. I reply, stuttering a little. He nods, a small smile plays on his lips. Excellent. I have faith in you, Weiss. The teacher says, walking me to the door. And just because you're not a leader today does not mean you cannot be one in the future. I look at Professor Luna. A hopeful smile spreads across my face like a child who receives a new bicycle for Christmas. Do you really think so? I ask, full of expectation. He nods, his expression serious but gentle. You are young, dedicated, talented, courageous, intelligent, and also very elegant. The last one, he says, moving his eyebrows in a humorous way. But now if you'll excuse me, I need to get ready for classes today. When the door closes behind me, I stand there, my cheeks red and my heart pounding in my chest. The teacher's words echo in my mind, each one igniting a heat inside me. Dedicated, talented, courageous, intelligent, and also very elegant. The words repeat, each one resonating more deeply than the last. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but the churning in my stomach refuses to subside. The hallway seems to rotate slightly, the walls blend into a kaleidoscope of colors. I lean against the cold stone, feeling the solidity ground me. He called me elegant. I whisper to myself, a small smile tugs at the corners of my mouth. It is a simple word, but it carries so much weight. It is a validation of everything I strive to be, an acknowledgement of the balance and grace I work so hard to maintain. Wait, I exclaim, realizing something. Did he call me Snow Angel? Point of view, Pira Nikos. The room buzzes with the usual morning bustle, but my thoughts are elsewhere. I wanted more information about John Luna, but I found nothing on DustNet or in the research I did in the past year about huntsman and huntress institutions. None of the big four academies fad Professor Luna's name as a teacher. In other words, in addition to not being a Beacon faculty member at that time, he also did not transfer from any of the other three. It would be less suspicious if he were a teacher in training, but no, he came posing as a substitute. I think in silence. On the first day, my instincts hammered my mind with suspicion nipping at the edges of my curiosity. Who is this man, and why does he descend upon Beacon like a ghost appearing out of nowhere? I think silently. But then I saw him in action. The fluidity of his movements, the precision of his strikes, is like watching a master at work. He danced around Yang's fury with an ease that proves his expertise. Each step calculated, each movement a testament to years of honed skill. An exceptional huntsman being asked to teach the next generation is not unusual. So my doubts began to subside, replaced by a reluctant respect. This man knows what he is doing, his knowledge and skill are unquestionable. However, the memory of John's limping the night before reignited my doubts. Professor Luna may be skilled, but he is also ruthless. The cruelty he showed John leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. John is inexperienced, yes, but he is also dedicated and kind. Seeing him reduced to a shadow of himself, all because of one man's severity, stirs a deep resentment within me. The respect I began to feel for him now wars with a growing disdain. How can a teacher at Beacon be so cruel? Clapping hands breaks my train of thought. When I look at the source of the sound, I see the teacher drawing the students' attention. All right, class, calm down. He orders, his tone authoritative and more serious than usual. The room falls silent almost instantly. All eyes turn to the front, where he stands, his posture erect and his gaze unyielding. Today, we will focus on teamwork in an unconventional way, he announces, his voice echoing through the room. Those who hear their names called come before me ready to fight. Only 3. I question internally. The normal thing is to train in 4s or pairs when it comes to teams. Weisschnee, John Ark, and Carden Winchester. He announces loudly. You 3 will make a team to face me. The room erupts in whispers, a low hum of confusion and surprise running through the students. Eyebrows raise, heads turn and shoulders shrug as everyone tries to understand the team's unusual composition. Wow, now that is a problematic team. Yang murmurs, leaning into Blake. I think the only way it could be more chaotic is if there were a faunus with them. Blake freezes for a second, but gives a forced laugh, agreeing with Yang. I look at John, who looks just as perplexed as the rest of us. His eyes meet mine briefly. A silent question passes between us. I offer him a small, encouraging smile, but his expression remains worried. Carden, on the other hand, wears a smug smile, clearly pleased with the opportunity to show off. The SDC heiress, on the other hand, has a serious and concentrated expression on her face, as if she has been called by a superior to prove something. In a few minutes, the 3 of them equip and go to the center of the room in front of the professor, wearing black armor, different from the rusty one he wore last time. That must be the armor he used when training with John. Today, we will simulate a real-world scenario. Professor Luna explains, his voice clear and authoritative. There will be times in your careers as huntsmen when you will have to work with strangers, people you have never met before. That's why I choose a different member from each team for this fight. The room falls silent, each student hanging on to their words. I lean forward, my curiosity piqued. This is a new approach, one that promises to test our adaptability. Your task is simple. He continues. You must work together to defeat me. Weiss, you will be the leader for this exercise. Weiss's eyes widen a little, but she quickly composes herself, standing a little straighter. I can see the wheels turning in her mind as she begins to strategize. Hold on. Carden interrupts, his voice tinged with arrogance. Why don't you let me lead? After all, I am already a very successful, competent, and might I add, a humble leader. I'm also a leader dashed. John tries to speak. Please, Ark. Carden says, silencing John. Adults are talking. Professor Luna's gaze sharpens, his voice drops to a low, stern tone. If you are such a good leader, you need to practice following orders and not giving them. The teacher replies, giving a slightly threatening smile. Carden's mouth closes, his smug expression replaced by a frown. Weiss, meanwhile, looks thoughtful, her eyes scanning the room as if already planning her first move. John looks nervous but determined, his hands gripping his weapon tightly. I catch his eye and give him a little encouraging wave. He returns a grateful smile, his grip relaxes slightly. You have 5 minutes to discuss your combat strategy. Professor Luna says, taking a step back. After that, the battle begins. There will not be any ring-outs. Only red aura, fainting, and surrender will end this fight. The professor concludes by putting on his black helmet. Chapter 4. That Blonde Idiot. Point of view. Weiss Schnee. On the other side, Professor Luna leans against the wall with his arms crossed, watching us with a piercing gaze. The tension is palpable with the boys next to me waiting me to say something. I take a deep breath, trying to stay calm, and start talking. Okay, we need a plan. I start by trying to sound more confident than I actually am. In the last class, we saw that Professor Luna is an efficient fighter and capable of easily dodging one of the strongest students in our class. We need to attack together and coordinate our movements. Do you agree? Carden rolls his eyes, crossing his arms in a disinterested gesture. I don't need some annoying, flat chest, no-ass girl telling me what to do. The ginger complains. Professor Luna made me a leader so dashed. Carden cuts me off, raising his hand, looking at me annoyed. I will defeat the professor alone, and you will have the chance to benefit from being on my team. The ginger says in an arrogant tone. With his chest puffed out, he walks away, reiterating that he has no interest in collaborating. Frustration and sorrow takes over me. I try to maintain my composure, but my shoulders sag slightly. I couldn't be a leader for 5 minutes? I question myself in silence. Professor Luna gave me this chance, and I managed to fail before the fight even started? I look at my hands, the same ones that should be able to wield a weapon to protect others, but now seem so useless. I always thought I would be a perfect leader, but now, I'm not sure I'm a competent huntress. Hey, Weiss. John walks over, placing a hand on my shoulder.
Don't worry about him.
Your plan sounds good. Shall we work together? I look at John, surprised by his positive attitude. He smiles encouragingly, and I feel some of my confidence return. Thank you, Ark. I respond, cheering myself up. If Carden wants to act like a doofus, let him go first. That way we'll have a better read on the professor's movements after he fumbles. Smiling, John nods, determined. As no one saw the teacher fight for more than 5 minutes, this type of information is vital. I inform the blonde, recovering my usual posture. John chuckles awkwardly, scratching the back of his head. Actually, Weiss, I fought Professor Luna for well over 5 minutes. I turn to him, shocked.
What?
I question in surprise. John nods, a little embarrassed. He called me for private training last night, and it was as intense as it was extensive. My expression changes from surprise to curiosity. Are you the student he is mentoring? I ask, feeling curious and a little indignant. But how? John shrugs, trying to look casual, but I can see tension in his eyes. Let's focus on our strategy, then you can ask the teacher himself. I take a deep breath, trying to organize my thoughts. John is right. I think to myself, we need to focus on the fight. Okay, John. I'll need you on the front line. I'll support you while I look for an opening. Count me in, says the blonde, drawing his sword and equipping his shield. Please, you need to dash. I stop myself mid-complaint as soon as I notice that he hasn't questioned me. Did you agree with me? I ask, confused. Just like that, without complaining? Before John can respond, the teacher shouts, "Attention Team WJC Witch!" Shouts the teacher. Carden looks towards John Luna wielding his heavy mace with an evil smile. John raises his shield, only to then step in front of me. The fight begins now. Point of view, Professor Luna. Carden advances towards me, charging at maximum speed. His heavy steps echo across the ground, determination written on his face. He doesn't have to worry about the limitations of a ring, so he takes the opportunity to give it his all. Roar! He roars, bringing the mace down towards me. I dodge with ease, taking a half step to the side at the last second without drawing my sword or even raising my shield. The ginger's blows are strong and fast, but clumsy and more telegraphed than Yang's. With clenched teeth, he spins in a wide arc, trying to hit me in the face. In response, I bend down, feeling the wind pass over my head. "Come on, teach!" Carden shouts, his voice thick with frustration. "Are you just going to run away?" I respond, smiling in silence, which is enough to enrage him. Carden tries to sucker punch me, but I block it with my forearm, deflecting the blow without wasting much energy. He tries again, this time swinging his mace with all his body weight, but I jump out of reach, leaving him off balance. Focus. I speak loudly with a firm voice. Strength and speed without technique is useless. He growls in response, eyes blazing with anger. Carden's aura lights up, and then he activates the red dust crystal inside his heavy mace only to then hit the ground, causing a wave of fire to explode towards me. Foam crack. The flame grows quickly in my direction, the intense heat already warming my face through the visor of my helmet. "No!" Weiss shouts, her voice thick with concern. John, next to her, looks tense, but doesn't move out of her way. Carden, on the other hand, smiles triumphantly, certain that his attack with Dust's crystal-charged semblance catches me off guard. His Dust grade is greater than what is allowed in training. I think worriedly. Even though I can quickly leave the line of attack, I decide not to. The students behind me would be affected. I maintain my position by raising my shield forward and activating one of its internal mechanisms.
Click.
The sound of metal unfolding echoes through the room as the shield doubles in size. When the flames hit the shield, I activate my aura, charging it with additional strength. A wall of hard light dust expands the shield area even further, completely blocking the flames from passing through me. In front I see nothing but a white flash, while in my peripheral vision I notice shades of orange and red. In moments, the intense heat dissipates, leaving only a soft glow around the shield. The students behind me breathe a sigh of relief. Carden, still with the mace in his hands, stares at me in surprise with his mouth open. "Fuck!" Carden shouts, charging at me. Carden's reckless behavior could have hurt his colleagues. Furious at the young man's behavior, I grip the handle of the shield tightly, my knuckles turning white. "I think it's time for you to learn that." I speak with a voice full of contempt. Idiotic actions have deadly consequences. Carden ignores me and continues his attack. Once again I dodge easily, but this time I take advantage of his open guard. With a quick movement, I turn my body and hit his face with the edge of my shield, making him stagger. He stumbles back, almost falling. Without giving him time to recover, I advance again, this time drawing my sword. The steel shines in the light of the room as I make a precise blow, hitting Carden's hand, making him drop the weapon. Carden falls to his knees, holding his face where the shield hit him. The students watch in shocked silence, but I stand firm. "Get up, Carden," I say with a firm voice, looking at him with intensity. The fight is not over. He stares at me without reaction, his expression of pain and surprise mixed with shame. As he does not move, I raise my sword, pointing the sharp blade directly at Carden. I don't want to kill or even hurt him. I think looking at Carden, but he needs to learn his lesson while there's still time. The tension in the room is palpable, each student holding their breath, waiting for the next move. Carden's eyes widened, expecting the worst. "Professor, please." Weiss begins, her voice shaky, but she is interrupted by a sudden movement. Suddenly, something hits me in the back.
Bonk.
The sound of metal hitting my armor echoes through the room. The force of the impact makes me think that a van has run over me. Caught by surprise, I am sent flying, but as soon as I hit the ground, I plant my sword on the floor, turning my body towards the attacker. As soon as I stabilize and get to my knees, I see who attacked me. "It can't be," I murmur in surprise. From afar, I see my younger self trying to help Carden to his feet. The ginger looks as shocked as I am. Carden's eyes are wide, and he's still holding his face where my shield hit him. John, with a worried expression, reaches out to him. "Come on, Carden," John says, in a firm but gentle tone. Carden hesitates for a moment, looking at John. Finally, he accepts the help and gets up, still staggering a little. Weiss, who had been watching everything, steps forward, her eyes fixed on me. "John, Carden, you have to attack together," Weiss shouts, her voice firm and determined. "I will try to limit his movements." John hesitates for a moment, looking at Carden, who is still recovering from the blow. Carden, his face red with pain and embarrassment, complains loudly. "Why do I have to work with Ark?" Carden says hoarsely. "You can stay down if you want," says John, genuinely concerned for his well-being. "You won't be any help if you're hurt." Although the young Ark is worried about Carden, the ginger takes offense to the claim. "Fuck you, Ark," complains Carden, taking his hand off his face and wielding his weapon with two hands. "Everything you do, I can do better." A smile appears on my lips at the scene unfolding in front of me. "Congratulations, young me," I think proudly. "You managed to coerce Carden without even realizing it." With shield raised and sword in hand, John advances. Carden follows beside him, mace ready to strike. I watch the two approaching, the tension increasing with each step. "John, block the professor's attacks," commands Weiss while charging her rapier with dust. "Carden, when you see an opening, attack with full force." John nods, shield firmly held. Carden, despite the pain, remains focused, mace in hand. Weiss, in turn, steps back slightly, eyes shining with determination. "Good to see you are working as a team." I speak loudly for the whole room to hear. "But that doesn't mean I'm going easy on you." John is even worse than Carden in his attacks. He telegraphs as much as him, but he's even slower. I can easily take a step to the right and dodge his attack. At least that's what I wanted to do. I grumble in surprise when I can't move. My right leg is trapped in ice, preventing me from moving. "What?" I question, looking over young John's shoulder, and I see Weiss with Murdenaster stuck on the ground. "Clever girl," I whisper, smiling. The heiress, using John as cover, stuck her ice dust-charged blade into the ground. As she is behind her colleague, the dust glow is hidden from my view. I only noticed the ice when it grew on my leg, forming a trail heading straight for me. The intense cold begins to envelop my leg more. I try to move, but the ice is already firmly attached to the ground, immobilizing me. "Come on," I grunt, breaking the ice with the hilt of my sword. A foolish mistake on my part, as I have two enemies nearby. Weiss smiles, eyes shining with satisfaction.
"Now,"
she exclaims triumphantly. John swings with all his might into my sword, forcing my weapon arm back. The surprise of the attack catches me off guard, leaving my guard open. The impact resonates through the metal, and I feel the vibration travel up my arm. "Carden," Weiss commands, her voice firm and determined. Carden doesn't waste the chance. With a roar, he charges forward, the glowing mace raised above his head. I see the determination in his eyes, the raw strength combined with his dustless semblance that he is about to unleash. The mace comes down with all its force, hitting me directly in the chest.
Boom.
The pain is immediate, but what I feel most is the explosion of aura that follows. The impact is so intense that I am thrown backwards, the ground quickly moving away from beneath my feet. The air around me turns into a mist of energy as I am thrown through the air. I feel the wind rushing past my skin, gravity pulling me back to the ground.
Thud.
I land with a thud, the impact reverberating through my body. Dust rises around me, and for a moment, all I see is a cloud of particles floating in the air. We did it! Carden shouts, celebrating. We defeated that motherfucker. The ginger's happiness is short-lived with the announcement of a robotic voice. John Luna lost 12% aura. WA. Carden babbles. After a blow like that? As soon as I get up, I give the command on my scroll for the scoreboard to announce the aura of everyone in the arena. John Luna, 88% aura. Carden Winchester, 57% of aura. John Ark, 100% aura. Weiss Schnee, 97% of aura. Don't take it personally, kid. I respond by heading towards the three while sheathing my sword on my shield, similar to how I do when I have Crochamores in the past. Your attack was excellent. The problem is that I have a lot of aura. Weiss and John stare at me with wide eyes and open mouths, silenced in shock at my aura reserve size. Carden, on the other hand, protests loudly. Cheating son of a bitch. I ignore Carden's foul mouth and face the three young people in front of me, feeling great joy and pride inside me. Even though it is just a maneuver, I'm proud that you worked well as a team. I comment, feeling proud of my students. The ability to work with strangers, even those who dislike you, is a valuable skill. Weiss and John exchange glances, a mix of relief and surprise on their faces. Carden, on the other hand, seems more mildly irritated. He mumbles something inaudible, but I can see the tension in his shoulders ease. However, I continue talking in a more serious tone. I'm not happy with Carden's language and conduct during this fight, and if I praise you as a team, I will also punish you as a team. Carden takes a step back, as if trying to distance himself from the words he just heard. John raises his shield worriedly while Weiss, always the most composed, crosses her arms and looks at me with an expression that mixes defiance and respect. So, are the three of us going to detention? Asks the curious heiress. That's not the kind of punishment I'm talking about. I respond with a wicked smile spreading across my face as I bring my right hand to the hilt of the sword sheathed in my shield. I press another mechanism on my shield, and a metallic sound echoes through the room. The initial click is followed by a low, steady hum, as if gears are turning inside the shield. The sword, which is sheathed, begins to unfold inside the shield, locking itself inside. Then the sound intensifies as the sword and shield construct begins to unfold in length in the form of an upright while parts of the shield detach from the construct and fit into the arm, forming bracers. Metal expands, each segment fitting perfectly with a precise click. The blade of the sword opens to reveal the serrated teeth, making a cutting sound as they click into place. The buzzing turns into a low, menacing roar as the electric dust-powered saw turns on. VRR. The transformation complete, the two-handed chainsaw great sword is ready. Weiss's eyes widen, and I can see the reflection of the weapon in her light blue eyes. John looks worried, but keeps his stance firm, ready for whatever comes next. Carden remains alert, the mace still in his hands, but with a defiant expression on his face. Well, I speak with a firm and determined voice. Now that the weapon is ready, let's continue. Point of view, Yang Xiaolong. I watch the scene with wide eyes. The teamwork of Weiss, John, and Carden was great for an unfamiliar team. John tanks the professor's heaviest attacks while Carden engages, trying to put him on the defensive. Weiss, on the other hand, uses her glyphs and dust to help her allies and hinder the enemy. They even look like one of those groups of RPGs. I think to myself, VRRR. The sword roars as the teacher executes a broad swing, knocking the boys away. If he takes down the big guys with ease, imagine what he's going to do to poor Weiss. I comment to my sister next to me. I expect Ruby to be angry with the comment I make about her partner, but she is frozen with wide eyes, staring at the teacher who is moving with the force of a cannonball. Dragon Slayer. She whispers, her voice dripping with admiration. I turn curiously to RWBY and question her. What are you talking about, RWBY? I ask, frowning. RWBY looks away, clearly embarrassed, but she still responds. A few months before we started at Beacon, I was home alone. RWBY says, turning her gaze to the fight. Uncle Crow came home late, drunk and in a bad mood, even more so than usual. What is his problem? Did he lose his scroll? Did anyone steal his motorcycle or set his pants on fire again? I ask, already remembering our uncle's strange bad luck. RWBY shakes her head distressed, cutting off the humor I'm trying to put into our conversation. He comes back from a mission, a grim extermination mission. RWBY says, whispering as if it is a secret. A grim? I question in surprise. Like, just one? But it wasn't any grim. RWBY says, swallowing hard. It was a Leviathan class. I take the same classes as my sister, but I've never heard of this type of grim. Luckily for me, she explains right away. It's an ancient and powerful type of grim. Uncle Crow went with someone to kill it. I look at RWBY with a raised eyebrow. I know my uncle is an elite huntsman, but missions to exterminate powerful grim like Goliaths are made up of several teams, sometimes assisted by a small army. So he and some other guy killed such a dangerous grim by themselves? I ask, in disbelief. RWBY shakes her head, eyes fixed on the fight unfolding in front of us. It wasn't just some other guy, it was someone as strong as him. Who? I insist, feeling a chill run down my spine. RWBY hesitates for a moment, as if choosing the right words. He called him, that blonde idiot. That night I thought he was talking about Dad, but the weapon the professor is using fits the description of the one used to cut the giant Grimm's neck in one blow. My eyes widened. Professor Luna's weapon? RWBY nods in agreement. Uncle Crow didn't say his name, but the weapon is identical, and it was named that day in honor of his achievement. RWBY says, swallowing hard. Dragon Slayer. She speaks almost in a whisper. I watch the fight with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. Weiss, John, and Carden try to coordinate their attacks, but Professor Luna moves with a precision and speed that defies logic. Each blow of his monstrous sword is calculated. Each step is a strategic move. It's as if he is dancing with death, and his students are mere spectators. How does someone like him come out of nowhere? I mutter to myself, eyes fixed on the scene. No one has ever heard of him before. Blake, next to me, notices my bewilderment and leans in close. Are you talking about Professor Luna? She asks, her voice low. I nod, still not looking away from the fight. He has an aura of mystery, says Blake, interested in the teacher. Maybe he's a retired special ops agent. Maybe he's a repentant criminal now fighting for justice, or maybe an embittered warrior from the near future who manages to go back in time. You're crazy, girl. I respond, irritated by her crazy theory. Your brain is rotting from that trash you read. I'm going to throw some of your books away before it gets worse. Blake frowns and looks at me seriously. Firstly, I only read art. Secondly, touch my books and I'll cut you. I sigh, tired, and leave Blake aside, turning my attention to the fight. Carden Winchester, 13% of aura. That weapon is not fair. Carden shouts. Life is not fair. The teacher responds. Now stop crying and get out of my ring. Chapter 5, Shadows of the Past.
Point of view, Ashvin.
The sun rises when I'm already in my office in a meeting, a mug of steaming coffee in my hands. Soft morning light shines through the windows, illuminating the place. Suddenly, my monitor lights up. The image of Glinda Goodwitch appears, her serious expression unable to disguise the dark circles under her eyes caused by sleepless nights dealing with the traitor Leonardo Lionheart. Good morning, Professor Ashvin, she begins, without preamble. We need to talk. I take a sip of coffee, keeping my expression neutral. Of course, Glinda. What happened? She takes a deep breath before speaking, as if organizing her thoughts. Leonardo Lionheart was arrested on charges of involvement in Mistral's organized crime. Our targets continue to behave like normal students. As Haven's former management already admitted Team CMEN as students, they have no reason to worry about the possibility of being discovered. Furthermore, Any suspicious movement draws unwanted attention to them. My hand tightens on the mug, but my face remains impassive. Involvement in organized crime? I repeat in an inquisitive tone. A good excuse to hide the fact that he worked with Salem's forces. I speak as I take a sip from my mug. And, do you know what this means for Haven? Glinda frowns in irritation and exhaustion, but responds in her steady voice. From now on I will act as headmistress of Haven Academy for an indefinite period of time. The teacher says in a morbid tone, fearing the bureaucracy she will have to deal with. And if you don't find a suitable replacement, I stay in the position ad infinitum. I laugh at the teacher's behavior. Despite the disdain and drama in her speech, she knows that no one is more competent than her for the job. Satisfied with the situation in Mistral, I take a big sip of my coffee, feeling the hot liquid go down my throat. Glinda, keeping her expression serious, decides to change the subject. I have another important matter to discuss with you, sir. It's about John Luna. I raise an eyebrow, intrigued. Glinda is always skeptical of new teachers, especially those with dark pasts, and in the case of John, someone loaded with secrets about the enemy. She was the most meticulous in analyzing his past history and the most doubtful of his character at first. Although I am always willing to talk to Glinda, right now it is not the most appropriate to talk about John. After all, she interrupted me in the middle of a meeting. I understand your concerns, Glinda, but I think it's best we talk another time. I try to speak only to be cut off by Glinda raising her hand on the other end of the call. She sighs, adjusting her glasses. In the beginning, it was clear to everyone that I didn't trust him. I thought the whole thing about going back in time is ridiculous, says the teacher, sighing tiredly. But now, after seeing him in action on the mission on Mountain Glen with Crow, the expedition with Port to Menagerie, the dismemberment of the Branwen clan, capture of the Spring Maiden, and of course his hunt for the Grimm that terrorizes the Koro-Yuri region, I see myself forced to admit that I was wrong about the old John arc. I lean forward, trying to speak, but Glinda once again cuts me off. He is exceptional as a huntsman, not just when it comes to combat, although he is stupendous in that area as well. Taking advantage of Glinda's pause, I try to speak, but she cuts me off for the third time. Please, Ashbin, she says in a solemn tone. I need to say everything so I don't get lost. Tired of being interrupted, I respond by shrugging and allowing her to talk as much as she wants. The classes he has planned are brilliant. The way he deals with students is admirable. The combination of practical and theoretical experience that he implements corroborates what I and other teachers have been working on in the classroom, and on top of all, he proved to be a trustworthy ally. The teacher says, breathing relaxed. Anything else? I ask, looking at Glinda. Nothing important, but... The teacher pauses for a second, her cheeks turning slightly red before she continues. I must concede that he possesses a formidable physique, striking visage, and an air of refined elegance, a quality rarely observed among seasoned huntsmen who dress like vagrants and could polish off a bottle of whiskey in one sitting. My jaw drops at Glinda's last comment, not because I disagree with her or find it strange that she would think something like that.
Ah,
Murmurs a male voice present in the room with me. That is so sweet. The teacher's eyes widened in horror, fearing who might have heard her. John Luna is sitting in front of me. I belatedly inform the embarrassed teacher. Since the beginning of your call, but out of range of my camera. Glinda's face flushes crimson red as the teacher massages her forehead, feeling a migraine forming. Her eyes close for a moment, as if trying to erase the shame that consumes her. Thank you for the kind words. I also think you are a wonderful person and an incredible teacher, Luna says, with an embarrassed but genuine smile. And if I'm not being too familiar, you are a beautiful and elegant woman. Glinda opens her eyes, surprised, and looks at Luna now that I moved the camera. Her face is dyed an even more intense red as she tries to regain her composure. Mr. Luna, The teacher begins, but I raise my hand, gently interrupting her. How about we end this call before it gets even more embarrassing for you, Glinda? I suggest, smiling at Haven's new director. Please. The new headmistress of Haven mumbles, hanging up. As soon as the monitor screen goes off, I turn to the man with formidable physique and striking visage. Well, that was awkward, I comment, taking another sip of my coffee. John just laughs awkwardly at my comment. But it's good to know you're settling in well and that your colleagues think highly of you. Don't even tell me, John comments tiredly. Despite the embarrassment, it's a relief to see that Miss Goodwitch thinks so much of me. I bet she'd love it if you call her by her first name, I add, raising my eyebrows. Embarrassed, John coughs into his own hand, trying to distract me. Changing the subject, did you get the special handcuffs I asked for? I lean back in my chair, watching him with interest. Yes, I do. They are in your armory, ready for use. Excellent. John comments with relief. I'll need them for the next one-on-one lesson. I stare at John, unable to hide my concern. I focus all my attention on him to the point that I forget about the mug of coffee that is slowly cooling on the table. And are you sure this is necessary? I ask with a serious tone. Cuffs of this type are used on highly dangerous criminals. It seems extreme to me to use them on a student. John Luna looks at me firmly and seriously before answering. I understand your concern, Professor Ashbin. But believe me, these handcuffs are essential and avoid a lot of headaches. I frown, trying to read the time traveler's expression, but he's determined to continue with his plan. And what exactly do you intend to do? He takes a deep breath, as if organizing his thoughts, and answers me right away. Arrest a terrorist. Point of view, Blake Belladonna. The sun begins to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Most of the students are already leaving, eager to enjoy their Friday night in the town. I, on the other hand, walk silently through the deserted hallways of Beacon, heading to the combat training room. Professor Luna wants to talk to me about Yang's erratic behavior. I swear to the gods, Yang. I mumble irritably. If I get detention because of you, I'll dye your hair purple. When I open the door to the room, I come face to face with the figure of John Luna, completely armored as if he is ready for war, training basic sword sequences. Even though he's a veteran huntsman, he still dedicates to the fundamentals? I question myself, internally analyzing him. I approach silently, watching each precise and calculated movement. The teacher moves with a grace and precision that only experience can provide. Each blow flows naturally into the next with the grace of a deadly dance. It's fascinating to see someone with so much skill dedicate themselves to the basics. When I finally enter the arena, I begin to feel the wind caused by the pressure of his attacks. It's not like in Australian cartoons where a samurai can cut an enemy from 6 meters, 20 feet, away, but the professor is strong enough to make my hair wave from his distance. As I get closer, I realize how tall it is. His presence is imposing, even though he maintains a friendly expression in class. There is something intense in his posture, and in his eyes a mixture of melancholy and determination that makes him even more intimidating. As soon as he notices my presence, the teacher stops his training, turning to me. "Blake, you're here," he says, taking off his helmet, flashing a warm smile. "Professor Luna," I reply, maintaining my composure. "Do you want to talk to me?" He nods, putting away his sword with one fluid movement. "Sorry about that, Blake," he says abruptly. I'm taken by surprise when Professor Luna pulls out a pair of extendable bronze handcuffs and fastens them around my wrists. My eyes widen, and I instinctively try to use my semblance to escape them.
Zap.
Arg! I scream in pain while an electric current courses through my body, canceling my semblance and keeping me trapped to the cuffs. My thoughts race as I feel the cold handcuffs tighten around my wrists. The electric shock still resonates through my body, keeping me trapped. Was this a trap? I think, looking at the teacher in front of me. I'm handcuffed, without access to my semblance, and my tormentor is a huntsman capable of facing 3 of my colleagues without breaking a sweat. I swallow hard, knowing there is no escape. What's happening? My voice comes out shaky while he approaches, his expression unchanged. "I know who you are," he speaks, removing the bow from my head that hides my ears. "I know about your past." I turn pale as memories flood my thoughts. The betrayals, the fights, everything I did to survive and to fight for the Faunus race. It all makes sense now. He's not just a teacher, but a special agent who infiltrated Beacon Academy to capture me. You don't understand, I whisper desperately, trying to contain my panic. I'm not who you think I am. The professor raises an eyebrow, looking at me coldly. Aren't you Blake Belladonna, daughter of Gyra and Callie Belladonna? He asks rhetorically. Weren't your father deposed as leader of the White Fang because he was considered a weak pacifist? And didn't you run away from home agreeing with the statements that your father is a coward? My heart beats fast in my chest. Fear takes over me. Every move, every word from Professor Luna seems calculated, as if he knows exactly what to say to unsettle me. I was just fighting for the Faunus right to exist. I try to speak, but he cuts me off. That's enough, he says, raising his voice in an imposing tone. I'm not here for political debates. I'm here to solve a problem. Professor Luna takes his hand back, searching for something. My mind races, remembering every mistake I make. The way I leave home, calling my parents cowards. The harsh words I use, not understanding what my father meant by dangerous extremism. Now, it all makes sense, and I deeply regret having acted without thinking. I'm going to die without being able to apologize, without being able to fix what I broke. But, to my surprise, the teacher shows a bright yellow metallic lunchbox with an image of a white rabbit. Smiling, he asks, "But first, would you like a tuna sandwich and some cold milk?" Point of view, John Luna. Sitting across from me, Blake devours the tuna sandwich with her gaze fixed on me, full of anger and resentment. The tension in the air is palpable, but I cannot ignore what needs to be done. Blake, I begin, voice firm but not without empathy. I'm sorry for tricking you into coming here, and also for locking you up with handcuffs loaded with electricity dust. Without giving me an answer, she continues to stare at me while slowly chewing the sandwich. But I need to make sure you won't run away. My tone is serious, but I soften it a little, trying to convey understanding. These shock cuffs are the only way to guarantee your presence. Without taking her eyes off me, she takes a quick sip of milk only to then complain. You have no right to treat me like this, she says indignantly. I'm a Beacon student. You're not just a student, Blake. I respond by shaking my head. You are a former terrorist on the run from the law. Her golden eyes shrink, and she turns to the side, avoiding my gaze. She goes back to eating her sandwich, trying to ignore me. Blake, I just want to help you. I speak in a calmer tone, getting her attention back. You need to come clean to the rest of your team about being a Faunus and your past. Her jaw drops, surprise written all over her face. Is that why you handcuff me? Blake questions with wide eyes. Aren't you going to arrest me or kill me? No, I respond, horrified at the suggestion. I would never do that to you, Blake. I just want to help you connect with your team and, if possible, with your family. The feline Faunus frowns, still suspicious of me, but now a hint of curiosity is evident in her eyes. Why do you care so much about me? Because I know what it's like to carry secrets, I explain, looking down. I know how much it can alienate those who care about you. I also know what it's like to run away from home chasing an ideal. Finding my answer strange, Blake stops eating to pay closer attention. Do you really run away from home to become a huntsman and help people? I laugh awkwardly, shaking my head. Well, yes and no. I wanted to help people, but I also wanted to be a great hero. Blake watches me, eyes narrowed, trying to read my intentions. So, you did it for fame? She asks, judging the vanity of my answer. Not exactly, I reply, pausing for a few seconds trying to find the right words. Recognition from my family was important to me at the time, but I also wanted to prove to myself that I could be more than just an ordinary kid. I want to be someone who could inspire other people. She relaxes a little. Curiosity completely takes the place of distrust. And you did it? Blake asks with her pupils dilated, fixated on every word that comes out of my mouth. I smile, remembering the challenges and achievements I have passed. The fall of Beacon, the death of Pyrrha, the Nuclavi, the agents of Salem, the journey through Mistral, the war in Atlas, Penny's death, and my years spent in the ever after. Yes, I reply with a bitter taste in my mouth. But not in the way I expect. The journey taught me much more than I could have imagined. I learned that being a hero is not just about fame or recognition. It's about making a difference, helping people, protecting those in need, and doing what is right. Blake nods, thinking about what she has said, and especially what she hasn't said. Sighing tiredly, I approach the girl and remove her handcuffs. I won't force you to reveal your identity to your team, I comment, smiling. Blake raises an eyebrow, looking at me annoyed while massaging her wrists. But I warn you that the longer you delay, the more difficult it will be to deal with this situation. Golden eyes stare at me, reflecting a mixture of fear and uncertainty within. I hand her the ribbon to hide her ears, which she presses, an unconscious gesture that reveals her anxiety. What if they reject me? Her voice is low, almost a whisper, but full of emotion. I hid the truth for so long. As soon as tears begin to flow from her eyes, I step forward and pull her into a tight hug. The girl reacts by stiffening her body, completely uncomfortable, finding my act strange, which many would also consider inappropriate. Your friends are stronger than you think, I say, trying to encourage her. They won't reject you. After hearing my words, the faunus finally relaxes her body, but instead of hugging me back, she pushes me away. Respecting my student's wishes, I release her, seeing her face red and filled with sadness. You don't understand, Blake says tearfully. I lie to them about my past and what I am. Weiss is the heir to the SDC. She's definitely going to think I'm a spy or an assassin. It ends with Blake covering his face, trying to contain his feelings. What if this is the end of everything for me? Then you won't face this alone. I speak in a firm voice. The seriousness in my eyes reflects in hers. I'll be by your side, no matter what happens. Blake hesitates for a moment. Internal conflict clearly gets the best of her. For a moment the silence stretches, heavy and uncertain. But I remain there, firm, waiting for her choice. Who are you? She asks with more uncertainty. I still don't understand. Why do you want to help me? Blake looks at me with her golden eyes, still watery. My words are more personal and intense than any average teacher should use. But that's why I prepare so much before starting the year. I take a deep breath, maintaining my calm posture, and give the young woman a wide, fatherly smile. Because I promised a very nice couple that I would help you. The faunus eyes widen in surprise at my words, as if the impossible is about to be said. Before coming to Beacon, I accompanied Professor Port on a grim cataloging mission in Menagerie. Impossible, Blake shouts in disbelief. Menagerie is a safe haven for faunus to stay away from humans. It doesn't mean that humans are prohibited there, although the population tried hard to expel me and Professor Port. If it hadn't been for the belladonnas welcoming us, it wouldn't have been possible to fulfill our supposed mission. Blake freezes. Her eyes widen, and for a moment, she seems unable to process what I am saying. Did you meet my parents? The disbelief in his voice is palpable. Yes, I confirm, keeping my tone calm and sincere. When I mentioned that there would be a faunus student with the same surname as them called Blake, I comment, smiling at the young woman. They know it could only be you. Blake looks like she wants to say something, but her words fail her. The internal conflict in her eyes grows. I continue. Knowing now is my chance to hit her with the truth. Your parents are worried about you. Not just because they miss you, but because they know how heavy a burden you are carrying. Gyra is proud to know that you abandoned the Fong for the same reason he did, and yet didn't give up on helping people. Tears begin to well up in her eyes again, but she doesn't look away. At least, not yet. Your father believes you have a heart to face any challenge. I continue. But it is your mother who asked me to pass this on to you. I finish the sentence by pulling a scroll out of my pocket. With a few taps of the screen, I open a video file. The scroll's screen lights up, and Callie and Gyra Belladonna's faces appear. Callie's gentle, motherly smile fills the small space between me and Blake with an almost palpable aura of comfort and love. Blake, my dear, Callie begins, her voice sweet and charged with emotion. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but if you are watching, please know that your dad and I miss you so much.
I hope you enjoyed my work. If you'd like more, check out the links in the video description. Goodbye for now.